Now, with all the stories making the headlines this Friday night, it's the ITV News at 10.
Lionesses and Queen's Brian May recognised in the King's first New Year's honours list. Members of the triumphant England women's squad are celebrated alongside the top guitarist, who's awarded a knighthood. Also tonight, all travellers arriving in Britain from China to be required to have a negative COVID test.
This is ITV News with Julie Etchingham.
Good evening. In the last few minutes, the King's first New Year's honours list has been announced. Included are members of England women's historic Euros winning team, the Lionesses, and also recognised is Queen guitarist Brian May, who's being given a knighthood for his services to music and charity. Ellie Pitt has more.
In his first honours, the King has rewarded Queen. The band's guitarist has received a knighthood. The now Sir Brian May, who performed at 2 of Her Late Majesty's Jubilee events, has been given the title for his contribution to music and charity.
So suddenly I will be Sir Brian or Sir Bry. I prefer to think of it as a kind of commission, as an endorsement of what I do for human rights and for animal rights.
From his studio in London, John Rentians also offered his services to Queen Elizabeth, designing her a stained glass window. More recently, he was behind the painstaking restoration of Big Ben's clock face. He's been awarded an MBE.
Because it's a validation and you spend so much time. So suddenly to get something like that is like a really lovely moment. And I read it and I cried.
Lionesses Ellen White, Beth Mead, Leah Williamson and Lucy Bronze have made the New Year's honours list, though the question has been asked about why their teammates missed out.
I know largely people are going to speak about 2022 winning the Euros. However, there was 23 of us that did do that. NMB, the Euros, everything like that. I'll just be, I think I'll be mind blown and probably a little bit overwhelmed.
Just 5 months after being crowned European champions, their sporting excellence has been given royal approval. Ellie Pitt, News at 10.
Passengers arriving in Britain from China will have to give proof of a negative COVID test, the government confirmed tonight. It means the UK joins the US, Spain and Italy in imposing fresh restrictions as concerns about the virus grow. The measures will come in on January the 5th, and our political correspondent Harry Horton joins us now to take us through what's actually led to this change. Harry.
Well, essentially, the government doesn't have confidence in China's vaccine and doesn't have confidence that China's telling the truth when it comes to the true number of cases and potential spread of variants within the country. Earlier this month, Beijing lifted almost all remaining restrictions. That's led to a huge surge in cases, concern about the spread of possible new variants. Officially, the Chinese government is reporting around 5,000 cases a day. Analysts say it could actually be as high as 1 million cases a day. And next month, the country will fully reopen its borders, at which point all arrivals to the UK will need to provide a negative test. There will be random spot checks for some travellers as well. In the past few days, other European countries have introduced restrictions. There's been pressure on the government from some of its own MPs to not be too slow here. Now, some scientists say these measures are unlikely to prevent the spread of new variants. Downing Street say the move is actually more to do with putting pressure on China to be more transparent. They say these measures are precautionary, they're temporary. If China is more transparent about what's going on in its country, then Downing Street says these measures will then be reviewed.
OK, Harry, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you. The family of Ellie Edwards, who was killed on Christmas Eve, have paid tribute to her as police continue their search for her killer. The statement, written by her father, described the 26-year-old as a beautiful and bright star. Merseyside police are asking people to come forward with information. Kelly Foran reports.
My beautiful Ellie Marlene is the love of my life, and she is my world, my best friend. She will always shine and be beautiful and bright. My Ellie has never gone.
Ellie's father was too upset to read his own tribute to his daughter today. The police spoke on his behalf.
Christmas and our family will never be the same again without her. She was the glue that held this big family together.
A family that have spent this week doing the unimaginable, laying flowers where Ellie was killed. Police don't believe she was the intended target. This is the moment that one person was arrested. Officers have called those involved cowards and are urging the public not to protect them.
2 people have now been released from police custody. The murder suspect has been recalled back to prison on licence. A woman has been bailed and another man is still being questioned by the police, who say they are doing all they can.
These people don't deserve to be walking our streets. They don't deserve to be protected. They belong in prison. Guns have no place on the streets of Merseyside.
Officers say they want to know where a dark Mercedes seen in the pub car park that night has since gone.
Silence is never an option. We need people to take a stand against criminals. We need you to speak to us so that we can take action.
Thank you.
There are still lots of unanswered questions. The police and Ellie's family hope someone out there can give them some answers. Kelly Foran, ITV News.
Tributes have been pouring into the pioneering British fashion designer Dame Vivienne Westwood. The trailblazer, who was also a staunch environmentalist, made her name with her controversial punk and new wave designs in the 70s and 80s. She died peacefully in London yesterday, aged 81. Graham Stothard reflects on her contribution to British fashion and British life.
She was a household name that shifted, bent, and ultimately broke the rules and boundaries of fashion. Forged in the fires of 70s counterculture, Vivienne Westwood helped bring punk to the mainstream, alongside her ex-partner Malcolm McLaren, building the Sex Pistols into the iconic band they are.
It was a privilege to rub shoulders with her, and I think what her and Malcolm did kind of set me and the other guys in the band into maybe a firmer footing in life.
Born in Derbyshire in 1941, she went from an upstart fashion designer to a global megastar. She received an OBE in 1992 for services to her industry. To many, she was the queen of British fashion, an inspiration to fellow designers.
She was the initial trailblazer. I mean, certainly when you think about British fashion, I mean, it's the first on the list, Vivienne Westwood. The construction of her clothes were far more intricate and like surgery. Corsets were made and folds on fichus around necklines, and the way the dresses kind of kiss the torso and the body. But yeah, it's a sad day. Very sad day.
Every single look that she came out with has become something that you remember, whether it's Naomi Campbell falling on the catwalk with the high shoes, or the whole punk look of the safety pins and the very, very strong street look. It caught on like wildfire and meant that she was like the queen of all of that.
She also campaigned passionately on causes she cared for, believing everyone had a role to play in creating a better future.
Whatever you do that's positive is becoming part of the spirit of the whole cosmos. That's how I like to think of it.
It's a philosophy she and her work encapsulate well. Hers is a legacy that will stretch through generations.
Dame Vivienne Westwood, who died yesterday. Former President Donald Trump's tax returns have been released in the US after a long fight from the Democrats to have them published. Amongst the headlines from the thousands of pages of documents was that he paid no tax in 2020 and close to $1 million in 2018. It was also revealed that he had bank accounts overseas, including in China, the UK and Ireland. Mr. Trump said the tax returns show how proudly successful he has been. Former Manchester United and Real Madrid star Cristiano Ronaldo has completed his move to Saudi Arabian side Al Nassr. Al Nassr and Ronaldo shared a picture of his unveiling online. As you can see, it shows the 37-year-old posing with the club shirt. The accompanying message said, "This is more than history in the making." And finally to Ronaldo's biggest idol, and crowds at matches across the UK tonight stood and applauded footballing legend Pele. The three-time World Cup winner died yesterday, having been in hospital in Sao Paulo since November. Sports stars and leading figures have paid their tributes too, as Brazil announced 3 days of mourning. Here's Martha Fairley.
Last night, Rio de Janeiro's iconic landmark, Christ the Redeemer, was lit up in yellow and green. The Maracanã Stadium was crowned with a ring of golden light, tributes appearing across a country now in 3 days of national mourning for their footballing king.
It's a small tribute, but it comes from the heart, for his family to know and see. That football jersey will never be forgotten by the Brazilian people.
The only player to ever win the World Cup 3 times, Pele was an inspiration to generations of footballers throughout his lifetime.
Every player, a top player, won a award and number 10 in own team. So, what he has done for football is, it's there and always will remain.
Victory. Introducing Pele. How'd you like to play football against the Germans? Why not?
In 1981, Pele starred alongside Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone in the Second World War film Escape to Victory. Also in the cast of famous footballers was Argentina's Ozzy Ardiles, who found himself on the pitch with his hero.
I was not very popular in Argentina for saying that. I mean, my idol is Pele. How can Pele be your idol? You have to be an Argentinian player. Well, no, Pele was so much better than the rest of the players. It was it was incredible.
At FIFA headquarters in Zurich, the flags are flying at half-mast for the man who changed football forever. Martha Fairley, ITV News.
And that's all from the team here tonight. We will see you tomorrow for New Year's Eve. Good night.